Hey everybody in YouTube land, it's time once again for Lancing with Myself, the weekly show where I take 5 minutes to talk about game design and freelancing, especially when you're low on spoons and low on cash. And this week I want to talk about the end of the world, because with all the business in Iran, we're worried about World War III, and of course Australia is largely on fire and full of smoke, and everyone is desperately worried about things, and that also raises a really important question for creatives, because we believe our work is sort of frivolous, it's often optional, it's something that isn't seen as saving the world. And so we wonder how to approach that when we are in times of crisis. We wonder how to, let the tension and the worries of such things go, and when we're trying to get to our creative desks. So the question is, how does one design when it is the end of the world? And that's a really good question. And here's the most important thing, is that I don't know what the answer is going to be for you. There's going to be an answer that you're going to get, hopefully, but it won't necessarily be anyone else's answer. And I think the important thing also is to understand that with design is connected to every part of your life. If you are a designer, you will be taking some time out of your life to make and create and craft things, but that isn't something that you can just wall off and pretend it's not connected to everything else in your life. Your emotional and physical state, your social and societal state, all these things will affect your time to design and the kind of design that you're able to do and the kind of work that you can do, and how you're going to approach it each day. And you need to have strategies in place, or at least think about how that's going to play out. When things change, when important things happen, you need to have a strategy and a plan and a process, and sit down and have a think about, okay, well, what does this mean for me? Take the time. Don't just sit down at the blank page and go, right, well, I'll just put all that to one side. Who cares that the world is ending or whatever it might be this week? I'm just going to go back to doing my regular design and that'll be fine. Guess what? It doesn't work like that. Everything bleeds into everything else, and doing your design and making your art depends on what's going on in the rest of the world. So you need to sit down and think, okay, well, if this is, if there are bad things going on, if I'm stressed, if I'm anxious, if I'm worried, how do I deal with that? If I'm thinking about the end of the world, what's my strategy? How do I think about doing art? Why do I think it's still important to do art? Do I feel like it's a distraction? For me, it's important for me to keep doing things that I believe matter, and I think they still do matter in such things. So that's what helps me get through that process. But I'm also aware that it's going to be harder. I'm going to run out of spoons, and that's what these videos are all about, is being aware of your spoon issues and your spoon access. Guess what? When you're worried about the end of the world, you have less spoons, and that means you can't do as much design. You can't always do the design that you want to do that week. So that's just something you have to build in. Realize that you have less spoons, and realize that you're going to need philosophy to deal with these kind of things. Realize that you're going to have to sit down and go, okay, well, in such times, what does it mean? How do I make my decisions? What is my personal philosophy? What is my belief system in this kind of situation? How do I value art in this kind of situation, in these circumstances? And if you don't have a good answer, if you think, well, there are more important things, I need to spend my money and my time doing other things, then do it. There's no law that says art must come first, and there's no law that says art must come last. You have to figure out your own personal response to this. And as I said, for me, the issue is that art still matters, and it is important that we always have to keep, working on the things that matter to us, and the things that also matter to other people. There is a famous Zen quote that goes, before enlightenment, chopping wood and fetching water. After enlightenment, chopping wood and fetching water. In other words, the duties of the day do not end. And that's always going to be true. It doesn't matter what your philosophical state is, there's always going to be duties to do. And if you are in love with the process of making art, if you see it as part of your life, then it is a duty. It is something that we are compelled to do. It is the chopping wood, it is fetching water. We're always going to sit down, we're always going to be making art, and that's part of our lives. And we can no more neglect it than we can, doing all the other things that keep us alive. Chopping wood, fetching water, buying food, going to the shops. It seems weird to be doing the mundane in times of trial, but the mundane will always be needed to be done, always need to be done. And so the same is with your art. The process of art will always need to be done. because that's who we are. We're artists, we must make art, we must create. So don't feel guilty. Just find a way, find a truth for you that tells you how to keep making your art, because it matters. And in times of these sort of large things, what they can do is make us feel small and unimportant. And that's, a casualty of these things that we shouldn't have to live with, that we can fight back against. You're not unimportant, and the things you care about and love aren't unimportant, and it's important to shout out to the world, I matter, even though I am small in the scale of these things. I matter, I'm here, I'm alive, and I refuse to go into that dark night. Hope is sometimes saying, it is awful, and yet I still matter. My art matters, and I'm going to keep speaking and saying and screaming to the world that I matter and what I make matters. But whatever it is, make sure you take care of yourself, stay sane, and stay safe. You need to stay alive so that you can keep making art, so don't burn yourself out. Take the time to take care, and don't run into a burning building just for your works of art. We can always replace them, but we can't replace you. So look after yourself, be safe, do small things to make you feel powerful, and keep making art, because you matter and it matters. See you next time. Be good, play games, pat dogs, have fun.